What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
Whose will you be? Let's start with the most confusing project, with the car that is going to be produced at the former Renault plant in Moscow, but with the name Moskvich dear to our hearts. By and large, there will be two Moskvich electric cars, and they will be completely different cars. The first car is the same already announced electric crossover Moskvich, which is essentially a JACE S4. The second electric car is much more interesting. It will be built on the domestic Karma 2 platform. Theoretically, the second car may cause a slight sarcastic smile in some people, but if you think about it, there are some questions. For the less fantastic JAC, what's wrong with it? At first glance, the electric car is like an electric car with a full-floor battery with the possibility of fast charging up to 80% in 45 minutes, with a range of 402 km in normal mode and 500 km in case of constant driving at a speed of 60 km per hour. The dimensions of the car do not strike the imagination: 4410 by 1800 by 1660 with a base of 2620 mm. For comparison, in a small Ford Kuga these parameters are 4524 by 1838 by 1689 mm with a base of 2690 mm. That is, the electric Moskvich will not reach even to Kuga. Sadly, but that's not all. Let's look at the power of Chinese ES4, 110 kilowatts, that in horsepower will be 149.56. And in the electric Moskvich it is declared exactly 100 horsepower. Why did this happen? There is no answer to this and cannot be, because this is Moskvich, not JAC, so there is nothing to look at some Chinese. It is possible that the reduction in power is somehow related to the range, because the Chinese calculate it using the NEDC, New European Driving Cycle methodology, which, although it noticeably overestimated the range figures for cars with internal combustion engines, but more or less coped with its task. But NEDC does not work well with electric cars. This method adds too much extra kilometers of driving range, which is very critical for the evaluation of battery-powered cars. That's why they more often use the WLTP method, and Americans use their own method, called EPA or FTP 75. The American method is the most honest, but it is also the most severe. With it, the range is minimized. WLTP is somewhere in the middle, but it is also noticeably more honest than the outdated NEDC. But the Chinese persistently write this parameter in NEDC. And it has almost nothing to do with real life. JACE S4 electric car. There is no exact way of converting data from one system to another, but the experts did come up with approximate ratios. According to their data, to translate the fantastic NEDC range into the closest to real conditions EPA, you need to divide it by 1 and DO tandit, 43. Now let's take Chinese 402 km, specified by them for JACE S4, divide them by 1.43 and get that the real range is only 281 km. Tesla Model S has 644 km according to the same EPA. And now let's face it, who needs an electric car, the size not reaching the modest Kuga, with a range of 280 km, this is without taking into account Russian thrusts and with a price. And here is a question. Of course, there are no prices yet, but the reduction in power may indicate either an attempt to add range, which is not quite logical from the point of view of the possibility of recuperation, or the desire to put a cheaper battery so that at least someone would want to buy this car. Plans for the production of electric Moskvotsak are expectedly modest. This year they promise to collect 200 units, next year 10,000 at once, in 2024, as many as 20,000. But there is another information about 2024, they will not be jacks anymore. It is understandable, it is unlikely that such an electric car has chances to become popular, especially in car sharing, where they hope to send them to work. We need a more interesting car, bigger, more powerful, with a solid range. Like Tesla, but cheaper and Russian. And they say there is already a basis for this. In 2024 we will be blessed with a domestic Moskvich on our Karma 2 platform. My attempt number 2. Everyone probably remembers how, at one time, news about the domestic electric car Karma 1 flashed everywhere. They said that it was almost done, prototypes were shown, it was just a little bit more, and we ran to the store for a new electric car. In reality, it didn't work out that way. The development of Karma 1 was carried out by quite serious companies and people. This project is a startup of Karma's CEO Sergey Kogogin and entrepreneur Ruben Vardanyan. However, the project did not take off, they produced only one production model, and that was the end of it. It is a pity, because they invested a lot of money in Karma 1, including budget money. Let me remind you that the main part of the development was carried out by SPBPU, aka St. Petersburg Polytechnic, but not always by themselves. The total amount of the grant from the Ministry of Education and Science, which Polytech has received since 2018, amounted to 150 million rubles, and this is just our budgetary funds, and another 63 million plus million was transferred by Karmaz. It would be all right, but of this money, first we had to give a very significant part to the Italian company Ital Design for the design of Karma 1, which we tried to make ourselves, but failed, and then some of the money went to Belarus, to the company Skyway, which, in fact, built the prototypes. This company has a bad reputation, to put it mildly, and Polytechnic could not help but know about it. But they still chose it as their partner. It's hard to say why. Maybe more reliable companies asked for more money, which went to the Italians for design and to someone else for PR. Anyway, now owners are really asking not to confuse Karma 1 and Karma 2. Karma 2 is different. The customers are the same, the executors are different. And technically Karma 2, as the project managers say, is completely different. And what is it? There are not so many details, but the first thing that surprises in the electric platform is the absence of all-wheel drive. More precisely, the presence of only front drive, which for electric cars with traditionally decent torque looks very strange. Dimensions of Karma 2 relative to Karma 1 have noticeably increased, and now it looks like a full-fledged B-class. On the one hand, why not? We have regions where even small Nissan Leaf is in good demand, but on the other hand, a right-hand Leaf with a run is still much cheaper than a new car. Therefore, the fears that arise when studying the Moscow JACE S4 are also present here. It is in our blood to buy a lot of car for little money, and here again it is B-class. Although, probably, there is no sense to make anything more expensive now at all. Power of Karma 2 will start from 70 kilowatts, 95 horsepower, the maximum power of the motor is unknown. There is information that the chassis according to the TOR should be up to 130 kilowatts, so it is likely that Karma 2 will be able to please us with a motor up to 176 horsepower. And what kind of motor will it be? In the case of Karma 1, the developers admitted honestly, the motor and battery had to be bought in China. And those that are on sale, because of course, the Chinese do not want to share anything new. That is, Karma 1 got not the most modern units. Nobody can say yet what motors and batteries will be used in Karma 2. By and large, there are not even clear TOR for the development of this car. You can't help thinking, will Moskvich move to this platform in 2024? Who knows? In principle, it is probably possible to set up a screwdriver assembly of electric jacks and to make a decent mass-produced electric car in 2 years. To hell with pessimism, let's believe. From the creators of the S-300, Wast and Thor. Until recently, the Almaz anti-air and space defense concern was firmly associated with military products, primarily air defense and radar stations. And here it is, the Neva electric car. Our own, domestic, but with a steering wheel from Skoda. Why would a defense company be drawn to civilian cars and even on batteries? The answer is very simple, and it lies in the decree of the President of the Russian Federation of December 5, 2016, which states that the share of civilian products for organizations of the defense industrial complex by 2025 should be at least 30%. And by 2030 it should be no less than 50%. So, bookie, but for civilians something should be invented voluntarily and compulsorily. And it never appeared not now, but last year. Well, and the first running prototype was shown quite recently, in July of this year. And the application, it must be said, is serious. Unlike CAM and Chinese Moskvich, the power of this electric car is quite decent, 435 horsepower. And this power, as it should be a decent electric car, is total, 2 electric motors, 1 for each axle, which, of course, says about all-wheel drive. The torque is 824 Nm, which should also please many people. What may not like is the almost Chinese trickery with the range and the slightly odd bodybuilder. Let's start with the range. At the beginning of this article, I mentioned that the Chinese persistently write the power reserve according to the NEDC methodology. Almaz-Antey did not stoop to such a level, but they did not use the EPA figures accepted by the Americans either, apparently, in order not to shock Elon Musk and his Tesla. They decided to follow the middle of a thorny path and specified a reserve of 463 kilometers, but according to the WLTP methodology. That is, in EPA it will be equal to approximately 413 kilometers, 463 or 1/12. And this is quite a decent figure, though not as solid as in WLTP. The Chinese would draw something like 660 kilometers in NEDC. The second point is more interesting. Do you know who made the body of the electric car? The same St. Petersburg Polytechnic, which for some reason used the services of a Belarusian company for its Karma 1. There are no other data about the body and interior, but the steering wheel from Skoda, as if hints that there was no purpose to use completely owned components. However, what we were shown is just a prototype, and it is too early to say what the interior, and the body too, of the production car will be like. Only if the car itself was. Characteristics are pleasing: maximum speed, 197 km per hour, acceleration to 60 km per hour, 2.7 s. Beauty. The chassis was built by the Obukhov plant, part of Almaz-Antey, whose components were used as a military secret. It is also unknown how much this vehicle will cost and where it will be produced. The Avtoda plant was mentioned earlier as one of the options, but given its location, it is unlikely that anything will be produced there. However, we still have to believe in Neva. The project is interesting, although not too transparent. Maybe, with the support of the state, it will work. Almaz-Antey products can shoot hedgehogs in the fog. The new Evolut brand, even against the background of not quite clear prospects of other electric cars, except perhaps Moskvich, which still has chances to appear in the foreseeable future, looks like either a herd of dark horses or a crowd of hedgehogs in the fog. There is very little information on them. Yes, in the Lipetsk region at the Motor Invest plant this fall they plan to launch production of electric cars, the first of which is likely to be the iJoy crossover. In fact, it is a Chinese Dongfeng CS3, which most of all pleases with its price. At home, it costs only 139,800 yuan, which in rubles at today's exchange rate is about 1,206,000. For an electric car with 163 horsepower, 300 Nm of torque and acceleration to 108.9 seconds, it already seems to be a very sweet offer. Of course, we couldn't dream of such joy. It will be more expensive here, but there is one pleasant moment, which, unfortunately, I can't believe Lipetsk electric cars should theoretically fall under preferential lending. And we have the highest subsidy for the purchase of an electric car, 35%, though not more than 925,000 rubles. The expected cost of the Lipetsk crossover is variously estimated at 2 to 2.5 million, which seems tempting, but one question worries: what about localization? We already almost native Haval do not gain enough points to get into the preferential program, and here are brand new for Russia Dongfeng, which promises localization in 50-100 points, while Granta last year had 3,280 points. I can't believe it, to be honest, and even sadder is the fact that Lipetsk is a cursed place for cars. To begin with, the founder of Motor Invest LLC is Fyodor Kunikov, but along with this name comes the name of Andrei Reznikov, who has a 0.1% stake. Now that's interesting. There is an assumption that Andrei Reznikov is the son of Alexei Reznikov, the founder of Irido, which, like Motor Invest, settled on the territory of the Lipetsk motor plant. The company had been a distributor of Great Wall since 2005, but in 2015 the cooperation between Irido and Great Wall ended. I should note that it ended loudly. The Lipetsk company owed the Chinese $50 million, which led to litigation and a case of fraud. Meanwhile, since 2017, Motor Invest had been assembling Chang'an, but in 2019 this attempt at cooperation failed. And just last year, the Federal Tax Office tried to declare Motor Invest bankrupt. It could not pay taxes. And this year, bam! The Chinese again. Yes, formally, the old Motor Invest and Irido are not connected with the new company, but the connection can be traced through the not very successful management. This is alarming. But another thing is encouraging. If they can produce their own batteries for electric cars anywhere, it will probably only be in Lipetsk. It is there that a plant for the production of lithium-ion batteries operates, and this is a rare enterprise for Russia. True, these batteries will not be suitable for electric cars, they are too low-powered, but at least there is a specialized enterprise. And there are sometimes great expectations placed on it. Which of them? I do not have much faith in electric cars in general and in domestic electric cars in particular. I will not say why. These issues are almost religiously polemical. However, we have to admit that we should produce electric cars at least because everybody produces them, and it is a shame for us to lag behind in technology even here. At the same time, the only really promising, though not the most interesting, electric car today is JAC Moskvich. It is at least a completed product which can be assembled with a screwdriver with some desire. Everything else is still at the level of faith and hope. But faith is great, and hope is immortal. In conclusion, the journey from Kama to Neva highlights the ambitious plans for domestic electric vehicles in Russia. As manufacturers strive to innovate and meet the growing demand for sustainable transportation, we can expect a range of models that not only reflect Russian engineering but also incorporate advanced technologies. While challenges remain, the commitment to developing a robust electric vehicle market is clear. As we look ahead, it will be fascinating to see how these vehicles evolve and contribute to a greener future for Russia. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the electric car landscape.